So my dudes, Valk here, and today I'm finally making a video that I've been wanting to make for a while, but I wanted to see how many changes Eula was going to get. I've been wanting to make this video since 1.4 came out, and even then, I still think it's too soon because I think Eula is going to be like bonkers
Exorcism uses
broken.
thaumaturgy and martial arts to
So,
conquer evil.
like,
There are other means to the same end, but
I'm
they're
like
not the
still
same.
afraid they're going to change stuff right before she comes out because they've done it before with Zhongli, with Child, like literally the day before they came out, they changed things. So everything I'm about to go over, please take with a grain of salt. It could always change, but I do not believe now at this point there's going to be any significant changes. So I'm fully aware that I could risk creating another Zhongli situation doing this. It's why I've held out so long on talking about Eula's kit. I've held out for so freaking long talking about this kit, and I'm so excited for it at the same time. And I just can't wait to talk about it. So let's go ahead, let's get into it. Eula! Man, I'm so hyped for Eula. I have my Eula cosplay Eula right here, male Eula. This is basically what my Eula stats are going to look like. I decided to swap out the crit damage circlet for a crit rate circlet because I want more consistency. That way, I can have her giant nuclear bomb of an ult actually crit more often because it's going to be very important that hit crits, and you'll see why once I get down to that portion of her kit. But yeah, same old build that I posted, I think 2 or 3 times now. I've made videos on, so you with the pale flame pieces, you guys are gonna get to see it in action once she comes out. I'm assuming she's gonna drop around May 18th is my guess. But let's get into her kit. So Eula at level 90. The only important thing here is base attack is 342, and that's pretty important because Xiao's base attack is right around there. I'm pretty sure Xiao's base attack is 349 at the highest in the game, so that puts her at second highest in the game. Behind her is Ganyu and Diluc, if I am not mistaken. And then we also have crit damage percent as an ascendancy stat. This is the stat you get whenever you go up star levels. Hers is going to give her 38.4% total crit damage. So having low crit damage like this, add 38.4% to it. You can see it's going to put me around like 161-ish, somewhere around that range. 161.5, I believe. That's pretty respectable. It's nothing amazing, but considering I'm going to have the Wolf's Gravestone, it's pretty freaking good. Then we get into her normals. Her normals, they hit okay. They hit pretty hard. Like the first two hits pretty hard, which is really important. 177.38, 185 at level 10. Charge attack, you're never really going to charge attack, I'm not going to lie. Plunge damage, once again, doesn't matter because you're not going to want to plunge with her. You're going to want to try to pump out as many attacks as possible. So setting up things like Dragon Strike and stuff really isn't feasible. But yeah, she has very high multipliers on her normal attacks, and her normal attack string is very quick. So that's really good. It's because she's meant to be a Fizz damage, and Fizz needs all the help it can get to actually be able to scale well into the end game. Because she's meant to be a Fizz damage DPS, she's going to be able to hit very hard with her normals. Because in game, you have stuff like Rune Guards that have 70% Fizz res. You have a bunch of enemies that have a bunch of Fizz res, and because it's percentage resistance, that means if you don't have any way to decrease the amount of Fizz res an enemy has, and this is very important, if you don't have any way to decrease the amount of Fizz res an enemy has, you're going to be dealing, like, let's say for Rune Guard, you only deal 30% of the damage you could actually deal otherwise. Now, why is that important? Because we go to her skill. Her skill, I'm not going to lie, this is going to be the last thing you level up. The damage doesn't really matter, but I'll tell you guys the damage anyways. First, let me just read it. It has two modes to it. It has a press, which she does presses and does a quick little swipe. That's a 4-second cooldown whenever you press it. It's kind of like Razor's E. It gives her a stack of Grim Heart, which increases her defense. I think the defense increases 30% per stack, so that's pretty nice. But then you hold, and whenever you hold, you burn those Grim Heart stacks. You can have up to 2 stacks. You ideally want to do tap tap hold. That's going to be your combo. That's going to be a total of like 8 seconds before you can get the Grimheart bonuses going. So the Grimheart bonuses, what do they do? So at 2 stacks, basically, which is where you're going to want to do it, at 2 stacks at level, I'm going to crown it at level 10, the physical res decrease is going to go all the way up to 25%. the Grim Heart's going to last. The Grim Heart stacks themselves last for 18 seconds. But we go back, physical res, 25%, cryo res, 25%. This is just the decrease. And then the res, their decreased duration is 7 seconds, so you can't keep it permanent up. You're going to have 1 second of downtime. And then whenever you hold it, whenever you do tap, tap, hold, whenever you do the hold, you have a 10-second cooldown to hold. C2 fixes that. C2 puts it at 4-second cooldown also, if you're going for Constellation. Then the most important part of Eula. You can see, like, before I get into the most important part, you can see how she has Fizz Res built, and Fizz Res Shred built into her skill. That makes it so she can actually shred resistances on her own. Pair Hair with Zhongli's Shield, that's another 20% res shred. Pair Hair with Superconduct, that's another 40% res shred. It adds up. You're going to end up having like a ton of res shred. You're going to be good to go in that regard. So then the very most important part of Eula, we're going to go into her ult. Now, I could read this giant passive for you guys. I could read all of this, but it's going to be much easier just to explain it to you guys in layman's terms, because I am not a smart person myself, so I sometimes need stuff like this explained to me in layman's terms. Basically what she does big swing of sword. She does like a big ol' whoosh like this, right? And then she summons a tiny sword next to her. Now, for every skill hit, every ult hit, every normal attack hit during this time frame, every 0.1 seconds, she gets 1 stack of that ult. Now, whenever that ult reaches 30 stacks, which is max, or after about 7 to 8 seconds, I believe it's about 7 seconds, the ult will explode. And this is a nuclear bomb. This is all of Eula revolves around this one thing, and the reason it does it, because the big initial swing, this deals cryo damage, but that ult, the ult that I'm talking about, the giant nuclear bomb, deals physical damage. And it's going to get insane multiplier-wise once you get Constellation. You're gonna, I'm not gonna lie, if you want high stacks on the ult, you're going to need C6, but either way, it's going to hit like a nuclear bomb. So, I'm going to talk about it at level 13 so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So, skill damage, the big cryo slash like I was talking about, this move right here that she does, it's going to deal 521.9% cryo damage. Not that big of a deal. But then the actual base explosion, not counting any stacks, the base explosion of the ult is going to deal 922.27% fizz damage. Now, this number is very important, and I highly recommend you look into leveling up her ult as the very first thing, because the passes that we'll get into in a second, but I want to talk about this first. So, 922.27 is basically what her base ult does. And then we get into, remember how I said this can go up to 30 stacks? Then you get into 188.43 bonus fizz damage per stack. Okay, at level 13, at level 10, it's 148.24. It still adds up incredibly quick. So let's do some quick maths. Let's do 188.43 times 30 plus 922. So 188, we're just going to make it very easy on us, times 30 equals 5640 plus 922, 6562. That's not even counting the points. That's max. To get max stacks, though, you not only need C6, you also need to have some sort of attack speed booster, or you need to be incredibly lucky, because even C6 doesn't guarantee you max stacks. At C6, you're probably going to mostly end up around like 21, 22 stacks, which still is a nuclear bomb. That's still somewhere around like 4,000 to 5,000%. That's still a huge, huge number. This is also, you got to keep in mind whenever you're thinking about this number, right? You got to keep in mind that not only are you thinking about the number, but the number is pre-crit calculations. So you're not, that number is like before the fizz damage percent, before the crit damage percent, before any percent damage bonuses, before anything like that. That number is purely attack into 5,000% multiplier, 4,000% multiplier, 3,000, whatever you end up at. That's that number. That's why this number is insane. Because this number is going to get amplified by X amount of percent, and then you're going to go into multiplicative values, and it's going to be an absolute show of a nuclear bomb. I cannot exaggerate enough. If you think Zhongli's ult hits hard, wait till Eula comes out and you see what her ult can do. And keep realistic expectations. If you're C0 Eula, you're probably going to end up around maybe 10 stacks. Maybe 10 stacks. 8 to 10 stacks instead of the 30. The reason C6 helps so much is you start with 5 stacks now. Excuse me, I got it wrong earlier. I think I said 10. They nerfed that. You start with 5 stacks now. So realistically, even at C6, you might get like 20 at tops. Like 30 is going to be very, very hard to reach, and they're making it hard to reach on purpose. But yeah, you're going to have like maybe 20 stacks tops, even at C6. The stacks are incredibly difficult to get because this is a very, very, very strong ability that as we have more access to better weapons in the time and going into the future, as we have more attack speed buffers, she's going to scale exponentially with. It's why I like stacking units sometimes like this that are dedicated to how many hits you can do in a certain amount of time. They tend to age pretty well as you have more access to things that can help you achieve those stacks, because her potential damage, ludicrous. Odds of you hitting that damage at C0, none. I'm gonna be blunt and honest with you guys. Absolutely no chance in the hell you hit 30 stacks at C0. If you do, I'll be very, very surprised. But her damage is going to be ludicrous. Either way, even at 10 stacks, even at, I don't know, even at 15 stacks, 8 stacks, it's going to be nuts. Even at 8 stacks, if we do quick math, let's just say you're level 10, you have it crowned, 148.24. Even at 10 stacks, that's 1,400 extra percent on top of the 725 base. That's still the hardest hitting skill in the game. And that's only a third of what you can do. So you get the idea of why I'm like raving about this ult. This ult is insanity. This ult is nuts. We haven't seen anything like it in the game yet. And like I said, keep in mind, everything can change. Everything I'm telling you right now can change. It can all change tomorrow. We don't know until she finally comes out. I'm just explaining to you guys the math behind it so you can understand exactly why this ult is nuts. But the odds of you actually hitting the top end damage are extremely low. Anyways, I've been ranting enough about this ult. Let me go on to the next thing. The passives, very, very important. Passive 1, she basically has Sing Cho's talent, except a little bit better. So really, really valuable on that. That's, you know, where whenever you're doing the books, she has a 10% chance to receive double the product. So that's really good. Now here's where her ult level matters. This is why I said you're probably going to want to level the ult first. The first passive is Roiling Rime. If 2 stacks of Grimheart are consumed upon releasing the holding mode of Ice Tide Vortex, it summons her ult that immediately explodes, so it's just the 922 base damage that I was talking about earlier, and it explodes dealing 50% of that as basic physical damage. So you can see that's basically every 8 seconds you're going to be able to do this, and you're going to be able to drop a 450% bomb for free as kind of like a third skill, purely because that's her passive. You can see why she's going to be nutty damage-wise. She's just going to keep stacking, keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and it's going to make things much, much easier. She's just absolutely beefed out as a unit. So that's that passive. Then we go into Wellspring of Warlust. When Glacial Illumination is cast, which is our ult, the cooldown of Ice Tide Vortex is reset, and Eula gains 1 stack of Grimheart, so she can immediately have her skill back up. She can have her skill off cooldown, so you can do all sorts of rotations and stuff to try to maximize the stacks outside of her ult. It's going to help you out a lot. That's her basic kit. Her base kit at C0, talking purely at C0, is still incredibly strong, and she has very strong constellations, unlike Xiao, whose constellations kind of leave a lot to be desired, but because his C6 is so broken, his other poo-poo constellations are kind of null and void, because if you buff those constellations, you buff C6. If you buff C6, why is the question. Just why? But her constellations are very, very good. If we go into Constellation 1, which is a very valuable one, every time Ice Tide Vortex Grimheart stacks are consumed, Eula's physical damage is increased by 30% for 6 seconds. Each stack consumed will increase the duration of this effect by 6 seconds, up to a maximum of 18 seconds. You can basically keep this up at 100% uptime if you have Eula out there, because like I said, you only have like about 8 seconds before, if you have C2, you only going through like, I think, no, it's not 8 seconds, it's 12-second rotations to keep Grimheart stacks up. You're going to basically be able to keep this up at 100% uptime with Eula's physical damage percent. Physical damage percent is really important because it also applies to the ult, so it's just as good as bonus damage percent for Eula. And then Lady is Seafoam, Constellation 2. It shortens the cooldown of her skill to 4 seconds, so hold. Basically, tap is 4 seconds, hold is 4 seconds of Constellation 2. Very simple one. Constellation 4, Lightfall Swords, her ult, deals 25% increased damage against opponents with less than 50% HP. This is what I was talking about. You're going to hit multiplicative values. It's going to hit very, very hard. And then the most important constellation, like almost with every single unit, Lightfall Swords created by Glacial Illumination start with 5 stacks. Like I said, it used to be 10 unless I'm mistaken, but now it's 5 stacks of energy. Normal attacks, elemental skills, and elemental burst. The reason it says elemental burst is because the passive that I was talking about have a 50% chance to generate the Lightfall Sword, or grant the Lightfall Sword an additional stack of energy. So basically, you're going to be able to build up the stacks a hell of a lot faster, and you're going to be able to probably get around, like I said, 15 to 20 stacks unless you have a bunch of attack speed boosters, which at this point in the game I don't think is too much worrying about. Attack speed boosters would include someone like Chongyun, which you wouldn't want to run Chongyun with her because then you would take away the physical damage percent of her. But somebody like Chongyun, C2 Jean, or her new sword coming out, for example, also boosts attack speed. That's why it's incredibly valuable. So yeah, that's a thing. So that's essentially Eula in a nutshell. If I had to describe Eula's playstyle off of just reading it like this, I would describe Eula as a giant nuclear cannon, building up for one hit, and once that hit goes off, anything in front of her is dying. No exceptions. There's nothing in this game that's going to survive the amount of ludicrous damage that her ult is going to provide. Not to mention her good basic normal multipliers she has. She has very strong normal multipliers. They hit very hard. And all the buffs she can give herself throughout her kit to buff up her damage even further. And not to mention her passive, like I said, she's just going to deal a ton of damage overall. Do I think she's going to be like OP, underpowered, anything like that? I don't know and I don't care, to be honest. I mostly like her for her personality. This kit's just A1. I've been hype about this kit since day one. I haven't talked about it because I can't talk about this kit without hyping it up, because as a numbers dude, this gets me excited. This makes me very happy to read all these numbers off and go, oh my god, all the potential. I get really excited reading these numbers because I love multiplicative values, I love stacking values, I love things like that. And these numbers can get pretty nutty pretty quickly. So yeah, let me know in the comment section below if you are hyped about Eula. Let me know if you made it to the end of the video even, because I know this is going to be a very long video because she has a lot to go over. Her kit's very complicated. Another thing I didn't touch on, I want to talk about real quick, is her skill also puts down some... It does an extra hit of ice when you consume Grinhardt stacks. But the thing is, I don't know if that hit's delayed. I don't know if it's DOT. I don't know exactly how that hit works, because if that hit works the way it's described, then I don't know if it's going to count towards the stacks through her ult, because you have a 0.1 second cooldown timer before it actually stacks with it. I imagine that hit's going to stack, but I don't know if it's some form of DOT that's going to help you build up stacks very quickly. I don't exactly know how it works. I don't know how easy it is going to be to actually hit 30 stacks, which is another reason I hesitate on making this video, because I don't know entirely how it works till I get my hands on it. By then, I'll have another video explaining exactly how she works and how you can pretty much make her deal big PP damage and good rotations for you guys. Same way I did Xiao, same way I did like any unit I really, really like. I'm going to make detailed guides on her once I get my hands on her, and hopefully that will help you guys out. But anyways, enough with a little disclaimer. And another disclaimer really quick before I end this video. Like I said 2 times in the video, everything's subject to change because she's not out yet. Keep that in mind. These numbers are not final. These numbers can change. Her ascendancy stat can change, the physical damage bonus or whatever, ER even. Who knows? Everything can change. She's still up in the air. She's not finalized yet. She's not in the game. So until it's news, it's still a leak. And leaks are always subject to change. So keep that in mind. Anyways, like I said before, thank you all for watching as always. If you watch the entire video, all the way, this 19-minute video, however long this is going to be, leave it in the comment section below. If you're hyped for Eula, tell me in the comment section below. Otherwise, I'll catch you all later. Thank you all for watching as always, especially if you watch this entire super long video. Peace out, my dudes. Peace.